Hey guys, welcome back to my sewing room. I'm Kelly and you found me here on Pick and Stitches, and I'm so excited to finally be getting into our Sweetwater project. This is a fun one. I'm excited to try it out. I've been kind of playing around with some different formations. I know a lot of you were curious how I was going to do the applique or if we were going to follow the instructions, and I have a couple different ways I wanted to show to you guys. So let's jump right on in and I'll show you some of my shortcuts. So this pattern is really pretty straightforward and easy. The shape is very simple, and so I think this is a fun one to play with a light box. If you don't have a light box, find yourself a bright window and you can put your paper against that. And I'm going to walk you step by step through everything that they outline in the pattern to make it their way. I also started playing with an AccuQuilt die, and you can see some of the examples here, and I will go over these more in detail with how I'm doing them and how I plan to finish out my quilt, maybe in a little bit faster way than would have normally happened. So let's look at those two ways, and I can't wait to see what you guys think. Okay, guys, so if you're going to follow the pattern exactly like it's written, you're going to need a little bit of this Heat and Bond light. I like this one because I can grab it at Joann's. I can get exactly as much as I need. And look, you guys, new outfit, new filming day, no more blue hands. If you missed it in my short, I posted a couple days ago. I was trying to get ready to film this and I dyed my hands blue right before I started filming. So you're going to want some Heat and Bond light, regardless of which applique method you're going to use. If you're going to be following their pattern exactly, you probably want a light box, but a great bright window would work as well. If you don't have one, wait until the sun is good and bright, put your stencil up against the window and your paper on top of it or your fabric on top of it. Okay, so I wanted to talk through, let's see. So these were some of the options that I decided to give a try. So this is the original pattern. And so you guys can kind of see it from a distance. I will get you some close-up pictures as well. I picked up some of the different Christmas dies that are available from AccuQuilt. This is the original die, and this is the original die, but they were too wide, and they weren't going to give me enough room to have my 1/4 inch seam, and I was going to be sewing off the tips on both sides and the circle on these. So what I tried was then cutting them down, and this one kind of got stubby and fat down here. And this one doesn't even look like the same one, but I still really like it. So I decided to go with this one. And then when I sewed out all of my different colors, I just decided to do them on solids. So I did not alternate the Sweetwater fabric. I actually used my true colors that I showed you guys in that other video. So this is going to be what the quilt is mostly going to look like. So you tell me if that's close enough for you, or if you prefer, I keep calling it a chicken foot. I tried to get this chicken foot die. They do have it in the studios for AccuQuilt, but they do not have it in the AccuQuilt Go. And I don't have a studio AccuQuilt. So there you go. That rhymed, sort of. Anyways. Okay, so I will get you guys some close-up pictures of what these look like. I have sewn out some of them. I have top stitched some of them with the zigzag stitch. And then again, in the pattern, it just calls to top stitch right down the middle. So if you're okay with your fabric fraying a little bit, if you're going to be washing it, we wash our quilts a ton here. So I want to make sure it has a lot of longevity. But that's kind of the whole system. So I will show you guys kind of the step-by-step. Okay, so the first thing the pattern is going to ask you to do is to take your dessert rolls and your charm packs and to cut those into our strips, and then our coordinating creams to do that as well. And then the next thing is to trace on our webbing. So this light pad is something that you can use to help you trace the shape. So we've got the shape here on our pattern. And you could use a bit of painter's tape or a little bit of washi tape. I just like to kind of anchor it in place so it's not going to move on me. And then we're going to place the light on. And you typically will have a couple different settings on how bright you want it to be. I'm going to keep it rather low because it looks like it's blowing out the camera lens, and I don't want to do that. So the way the instructions are written is to take our webbing. I just grabbed Heat and Bond Light. I like how thin this is. And we're going to take it and lay it over our pattern and trace it. And you can actually trace these quite close together. have you draw it directly on your fusible webbing. And you can do this, and then we would just cut it out, leaving about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. I prefer to go ahead and mount it onto my fabric. However, it's not a problem with this particular bunch of Sweetwater fabric, but if you happen to have something darker, if I were to have this mounted on the back of this fabric, and then I was trying to draw it, you really can't see it through both layers. But if it was a lighter fabric, say something out of our kit, you can still see it just fine. So I like to mount it to the fabric first, and then that way you only have to cut it out once, but just keep in mind that if it's a darker fabric, that may be hard to do. So all you're going to do is trace your shape really quickly. And we can make these really close together to save on your webbing if you don't mount it to your fabric first. So it's really up to you how frugal you want to get. Okay, so we'll do one each way so you guys can see it both ways. So this one we'll just go ahead and cut out. And again, I'm going to leave about 1/4 of an inch all the way around. Okay, so the second one I'm going to show you kind of my preferred method if you have lighter fabric is just to cut this to sit directly on my fabric. Now you're going to put this on the wrong side of your fabric, which feels a little bit backwards for all of us who are used to sewing right sides together. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and mount this one. And while I've got the iron over here, I'm going to show you how we mount this one. So on the wrong side of our fabric, I'm going to put the textured side of my webbing down, and then I'm just going to press it on. And now I need to finish up that white one. So on the white one, because it's still very transparent, I can still put it down over this and then just trace the whole shape out. And so what that saves me is I only have to cut this shape out once. Oops, that was a terrible line. I'm trying to rush because I'm probably not going to use this block. All right, so then we would just cut both of our shapes out. We've got this one and this one. And now this is going to be my final shape. So I do want to be fairly careful in cutting this one out exactly like the pattern. So there's my white one. And now I've already kind of cut this shape out once, and this is where I'm having to cut it out a second time. But you only have to do that on the darker ones that you can't see through the fabric and the layers of the adhesive. All right. Okay, so there's our two pieces. And now we're going to take one piece of white and one piece of our pattern. And just to find the middle, I'm going to go ahead and kind of crease them both so I know where to place my, I kind of call this a chicken foot. So the red one is going to go on our white fabric. So I will peel this off. And then it's going to go right there. Now I am going to make sure I move this other piece because I don't want to accidentally adhere it somewhere. All right. And then our other piece, Walter, please be quiet. We're going to pull that backing off of it. And I ironed away my crease. Whoopsie. It's because I'm trying to work on this tiny ironing board. Okay. So my white fabric and my paper feel they feel different. They look very similar. So I'm always worried I'm going to throw one of them away. That's my fabric. All right. So then we'll adhere that one in place. And that's pretty much it. Then we'll take these over to the sewing machine. We're going to do a 1/4 inch stitch here. Sorry, this was a reused block. And then when we open it up, we'll have our little chicken foot pattern. Now the pattern just says to top stitch it, or to do a stitch down the center line, a straight stitch, and you're more than welcome to do that, or you could do a zigzag all the way around, or a blanket stitch, or anything as creative as you would like. So, okay, then we'll just press it open. And then I'm going to press this seam all the way open on the back. And then all we have left is that little top stitch down the middle. So it's pretty easy. The other way that I'm going to show you is to use the AccuQuilt cutter, and I'm pretty excited to be using that. It saves a ton of time on cutting, and it's not something I've really used a lot in the past, so it's fun to grab some different tools out. So really, in all, that's not too terrible. It's not too complicated. It is a little bit of cutting with the scissors, which was not my favorite thing.
Okay, guys, it occurred to me that some people may not be familiar with the AccuQuilt. This is the die that I'm going to use, and inside here you can see the shape, and it's outlined, and there's a blade between the light gray and the dark gray. Now, I'm only using this one star pattern or snowflake pattern, and I'm going to adhere my heat and bond to each strip of fabric here. Now, I've seen people use all kinds of different ways to keep it off your ironing board. You definitely don't want to press it into your ironing board and have that adhere to your fabric. But I'm pretty careful. My strip's about 1/4 inch narrower than my actual fabric strip, and we'll get this all the way attached across. So I'm going to do one set of green and one set of red for you. And I'm just snipping off the end here. You can definitely use lots of scraps if you need to. And then I'm just going to trim off the end, make it into my 4-inch blocks that I need for this particular die. I don't mind if I cut the ends off a little bit because I don't need those end points. So that one's just barely long enough to fit, but I'm going to go ahead and use it anyways since I'm trimming those edges off. Okay, so here's our AccuQuilt cutter. The belt goes straight through. We're going to use one of these mats on top of our die. So I'm going to get a couple layers here, put it right on top of my snowflake, and then I'm going to put my mat on top. And then I'm just going to twist it through. So this is going to work for right or left-handed people. You would just load it in from the other side. And then my mat is a little longer than I need here, but that's the one I had on hand, so it's what I'm using. And then you flip it over and look at this, guys. How easy was that? No tracing, no scissors. Only thing I'm going to do is after I get all of these cut out, I'm going to come back through and take off these little points because it's just a little bit too large for the pattern that I'm using. And then I'm going to cut them in half so that I can use them on each half of my square. That's it. Super simple. I was really pleased with how this turned out for my project. Now you do have an option of doing multiple layers. The heat and bond does count as a layer, and each type of die and system can do a different amount of layers. So check your manual.
And what I did was I cut off, there were circles on the end of these that just made it too big. I cut those off, and then all I did was cut them in half. So I'm going to find kind of the center area and just cut it in half. So those are my red ones. I'm going to get them off my ironing board just in case I forget. And so with the AccuQuilt, I did go ahead and iron it on to the entire fabric. So my adhesive is already on there. And now I've got 2 whites and 2 reds. And I went ahead and I did sew my 2 sides together because now I don't have this little 1/4 inch lip that's going to go inside of the seam. I just have a flat star. So I wanted to find the center of my shape here for that first piece. I'm going to place that on the red. And then I'm going to iron it in place. And it's just that easy. So now I'm going to do the same thing here. And I didn't have to do all of that fiddly cutting, which is kind of the reason I steer away from some applique projects. Now you have a couple options from here. You can just top stitch it like we did on this star, where it's just got that top stitching right down the center. Or you could do a zigzag applique stitch all the way around. So it's 100% up to you. I think this is something that I'm going to do like a little bit at a time. And that's why I wanted to go ahead and release this video with an incomplete quilt, which isn't typically the way that I like to put things out there, because I think that doing the zigzag stitch on all of these might be a little bit time consuming, but I think I can do them like 5 or 10 here before we leave for school or soccer practice or whatever. So I hope this was helpful. I don't think that this was much harder to do. And from a finish standpoint, I mean, you tell me, does one really stand out? I mean, I guess let's get you a red one to look at side by side. So those are my two kind of differences. Now, this is a background fabric from a different line because I had those blocks left over. I feel like it's going to have a very similar appearance. This is a little bit more farmhousey, which usually is a little bit more my speed, but I think this one's not super intricate, and I think it looks really nice as well. So let me know what you think, and as soon as I get everything finished, I will definitely post you guys some pictures to the Facebook group or to the YouTube channel. Okay, guys, so what do you think? I think the top stitching looks great in these 3 true colors. They all line up and worked exactly like I wanted them to. I do like the solid colors just fine in comparison with the text print instead of alternating the text print. Although that may have looked a little bit more finished, this just sure did come together a lot faster. So sometimes I make some shortcuts just to get it done, and sometimes I want a quilt that's going to take me a lot of love and attention. But on some of these monthly subscription boxes, I know you guys feel this way too. It's really hard to dedicate that many hours to just one project. So I hope you guys...
The AccuQuilt for me was actually a lot faster and easier. And I know not everyone has access to an AccuQuilt. This is actually the second project ever that I've done with one. My very first quilt that I made ages ago in a quilting class in Aubrey, Texas, had an AccuQuilt component. It was a rag quilt, and then we appliqued. In fact, I need to go dig it out and I'll share it with you guys on the next video. But this is the second one. And actually, I have never really considered using the AccuQuilt again. And then I saw this pattern and I was like, oh, ding, ding, ding. This is exactly what I'm going to use it for. So I did pick one up used from a friend. And I know not everybody has access to that. So comment below if you'd be interested. If maybe I cut some extras, I would do it in these exact same colors because it's the fabric that I have to hand. I have the blue jean color, I think it's called herb or sage, I can't remember, and the red. And I think from, matching up with the colors, I think it works out just fine. So if you'd be interested in me cutting some extra ones and maybe shipping those out, comment below and let me know, because I know not everybody has access, but maybe you have a girlfriend that also quilts that has one too that you could go borrow theirs. So anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. It definitely was fun, a little outside of my wheelhouse, and I will get it finished and I'll post some finished pictures for you guys soon. Until then, if you like watching any of my tutorials or my unboxing videos, please do hit that like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. And if you hit that notification bell, then it'll send you a message whenever I post something new. Until then, I'll see you guys next time.